We are live. What's up, everybody? Big show for you tonight. Very big show. I'm excited. We have a great show. There's some big updates in the MMA and the influencer and the combat celebrity boxing space. I've got it all for you tonight. We're going to get into it. Starting with the biggest news is that the UFC White House card is still being discussed and people are still bringing up Jon Jones. Dana threw Jon Jones directly under the bus tonight. There was a press conference after the Israel Adesanya fight and Dana was asked about Jon Jones. He threw Jon under the bus. We're going to get into that. Is he right for doing it? Is he justified? What do you guys think is really going on? I have a theory that the reporter doesn't understand. The reporter that asked him the question, I believe, doesn't even understand the fight business. I'm going to give you guys the inside scoop on what's actually happening. They asked Dana White about UFC Hawaii. The UFC will not be going to Hawaii. I'm going to tell you why. Big update on that. And the UFC is planning to go back to Japan. What is the difference between Japan and Hawaii, you ask? Because Japan is even further. We're going to get into the difference and why the UFC won't be going to Hawaii anytime soon, but they plan on going to Japan. Furthermore, in UFC news, Chael Sonnen attacks Tom Aspinal and he attacks Eddie Hearn over their recent statements about fighter pay. Man, Chael is a fucking real one, man. He is a company guy. So we're going to get into all that. And if Chael really believes what he's saying or not, we're going to get pretty detailed on what Chael says versus what Chael probably actually thinks. I believe them to be very different. I'm going to explain to you why. And in celebrity influencer news, Clavicular himself is out of jail. Clav is free, guys. He is free from the assault charges from the two chicks fighting over him at the Airbnb. He's out, guys. Don't worry. But Clavicular says they are watching him, the elites. Yeah, it gets kind of crazy, man. So we're going to get into all that. Him and Andrew Tate start talking. There's a theory on why Clavicular got arrested. And if you've not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And tap the notification so you can hop on live with me. My name is King David MMA. I will be your host tonight. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and a pro MMA champion, plus I coach at Extreme Couture. And right before we get started, real quick, shout out to Fight Circus, home of the Freak Show fights. They are doing dinner and some fights in Thailand right now. So make sure you go to @Fight Circus on Instagram. Not only can you watch the fights, you can book your Thailand plans and go watch the fights in person. Also, if you train martial arts or work out at all, talk to your coach. Tell them to go to StudioMillions.com. Studio Millions will pack their gym full of students who stay, pay, and refer. And yes, it really works. Your coach will absolutely love you. Trust me, I'm not bullshitting you. So anyway, let me take a sip of this pineapple cayenne kombucha. I am already on 668 milligrams of caffeine. There may be a little caffeine in here, probably trivial amounts, but let's get right into it, guys. So the big story of tonight, Dana White cooks Jon Jones. He throws him right under the bus. A reporter asked Dana about Jon's statement that Jon was offered $15 million to fight on the White House card. And that's the reason he's not fighting, because the UFC would not budge off that number. Dana goes, what the fuck does it matter? Right? And then he goes, listen, man, this is where he throws him under the bus. We're contractually obligated to give Jon Jones 3 fights a year. Jon doesn't want to fight. He's like, if Jon was chomping at the bit to fight, we contractually, legally have to give him 3 fights a year. And Dana's implying, you haven't seen Jon fight 3 times in a year. You haven't even seen him fight recently. It's not because we're not offering. We are legally obligated to offer him fights. He keeps saying no. Furthermore, Dana goes, this happens all the time. We have negotiations with fighters all the time. And then he said, Jon Jones knows why Jon isn't fighting. Jon knows what happened. So apparently Dana is making it like Jon is the one who doesn't want to fight. I think what's going on is there is... at least there's multiple people who don't understand the situation. One is the reporter. The reporter asked Dana, so who's lying? because John says he got a $15 million fight offer and he's not on the White House card. He says it's over money. You say he was never going to fight on the White House card. Is John lying? And then Dana's like, dude, what the fuck are you even talking about? So the part the reporter is missing, and this is what you guys got to know. Wait, hold on. Let me tap on this real quick. Let me get this going. I'm going to read the comments on this computer. See, I got the whole setup now, guys. Put Dana in the ring. Put Dana in the ring. Hey, man, he might be boxing Eddie Hearn. They've been talking about boxing each other. They keep going back and forth. Apparently, Eddie used to box, and Eddie's actually kind of good. I know Dana used to box as well, and Dana is pretty good. So that might be an interesting fight. They both say that they will spark each other. And who knows, man, maybe Zuffa Boxing collab with Eddie Hearn Promotions or whatever. But yeah, so the big problem with Dana and the reporter is that the reporter doesn't understand that Dana assigns his men to go out and to find fights that are available, bring them to Dana for like the White House card. And then Dana's going to select which of these fights Dana and Trump want on the White House card. So they go out, find who's available. They talk to John. Hey, John, you want to go fight at the White House card? We got a $15 million budget. John goes, no, I want to fight for $30 million. They go, we're not going to pay you $30 million. Come down to $15 million, you versus Alex Pereira. If we can make that fight happen, would you take it for $15 million? John says no. They go back to Dana. Hey, here's who we got. We got Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. John Jones doesn't want to fight. That's how it goes down. And then Dana's like, yeah, John, even if John would have agreed to the $15 million, Dana's saying he would have said no to the fight. They didn't bring the UFC 7 fights. They brought the UFC a bunch of fights. Dana picked the 7 that are going to be on the card. And he's saying, had they even got the number right with John and they brought John to him, that Dana would have said no anyway. So the reporter's confused. Furthermore, Dana is saying John doesn't want to fight. John wants to fight, but John wants to renegotiate essentially for every fight because he feels he deserves more and more money. And his tactic is he's going to sit out, and he believes the UFC will come to him at some point after suffering not having John Jones on the card and give him the money or give him more money. So this is his negotiation tactic. Chael Sonnen's chiming in saying that John would have made way more money fighting than sitting out, even though each money per fight is less than the total amount he would have made over those less amounts adding up is more money than zero because he's sitting out, right? Which is, the difference is John doesn't have to take any risk by sitting out. He's not getting hit. So for him to go down on his number and devalue himself in his mind doesn't make sense for very, very dangerous fights. So that's why John wants more money. Dana and the UFC look at it like, hey, bro, you have a contract. The contract says $5 million or whatever it is for John. We offered you a fight for $5 million. You said no. We offered you a fight for $30 million. You said no. We offered you a fight for $15 million. You said no. You don't want any of these opponents. You don't want to fight. And I believe what's actually happening is John more so wants certain numbers for certain fighters. And if it's not going to meet the number that he wants, he'll fight those guys, but not for that amount, if that makes any sense. Dude, they didn't even offer John $8 million for the Tom fight. The biggest they ever paid fighters was 7.5 to Conor against Khabib. We know this because of the class action lawsuit. So apparently the class action lawsuit has some numbers in it. The counterpoint from the UFC is that the public doesn't know what these guys make. Sometimes these guys have backstage bonuses for even more money. And essentially what the UFC is implying, well, not even the UFC, Dana is implying that these guys get paid more than the numbers reveal. So I don't know if you believe Dana, but the number that's going around is they offered John $30 million for the Tom fight. They released Conor's numbers because of the class action lawsuit. Did they release Conor's number for the Mayweather fight? Because that's the fight that I'm the most curious about. Not that it has anything to do with the class action lawsuit, but hopefully it was in there. And that fight's a 1-on-1 fight, so that doesn't have much to do with John Jones either. But I am curious to see what did he make? What did Conor make for what's he reported as making for the Floyd fight? That's the one I'm curious about. And then the UFC also has a contention that they are going to pay you an exposure. They're going to make you a huge star, which is, for a long time, I was I love the UFC and I was super interested in fighting there. And that was my thought, with that, like, if I can associate myself with the $1 billion brand and the platform, the money will take care of itself. So if we break down Conor's career, Conor has made more money from not fighting than he has from fighting. Fighting gave him the visibility to go make the more money, but the most money he's made is from the liquor company. Now, Conor doesn't know how to, like, I guess you would call it ferment whiskey. He doesn't know how to make beer. He doesn't know any of that. But because he had a brand, then his brand was able to be attached to people who do know how to manufacture spirits, liquor, right? And then that business deal, based on the publicity that he got, made him more than anything. So even if the UFC hypothetically would have paid Conor $0, Conor would still have $500 or $600 million from his liquor deal based on the publicity. So they're paying in a different currency, right? And you can agree with that or not, but there has to be some value associated with that level of celebrity. And if they are generating that level of celebrity for a fighter, well then where does that value fit into the mix of what the fighter should get paid? That's my question. Because we're living in a different time. Back in the day, if you were a boxer, you boxed, and that's how you got paid. Well, then all of a sudden, endorsements started coming along. So like Michael Jordan would play basketball, but he had a Gatorade deal and he had a Nike deal, and now he's made more money off shoes than he has off basketball, right? And so it's starting to become the same thing with the UFC, where these guys are making more money off the businesses that are launched from their personal brand, and the UFC built their personal brand for them, if that makes sense. There's 30 million number journalists in UFC payroll. Oh, okay. So you're saying that I'm adjusting this so I can read these better and quicker. The 30 million are rumored by journalists on the UFC payroll. Well, I would suggest that those journalists may not be on the UFC payroll, but I understand what you're saying, that like they have allegedly very favorable journalists, because if you upset them, then they do not allow dissent. I don't know what you would call it. Felony Charles Bennett, MMA legend in the building. Felony just got on the chat. Everybody say what's up to Felony. If you guys support Felony's career, listen, man, we talking fighter pay, bro. We're hitting the streets with the Felony Charles Bennett Cash App shirt. Okay, guys, we're taking matters into our own hands. All right. These fight promotions don't want to pay. If you guys enjoy, instead of buying the pay-per-view, send the money directly to Felony. Okay, guys? Send it to Felony directly. Because, sometimes these fight promotions, what the numbers they pay are ridiculous for the amount of value that they get. Brendan Schaub got $300K from sponsors. Yeah. Brendan Schaub also got a big bag in the lawsuit. I heard Brendan Schaub got approximately $1 million or more in the lawsuit. You may have more information on that. I should do some research on that and do a whole video on that, because that's a very interesting topic to me, the lawsuit. And then like Moicano didn't take the money, right? But the UFC already had to pay out the money. So they were paying it either way. And so instead of Moicano getting paid, his money still got paid out, and then it just got given to the other fighters. So Anderson Silva got a piece of that, Schaub got a piece of that, and Moicano chose not to take a piece of that, even though the money was already paid out. What? Anderson Silva got 10 mil, but he had to pay 50% in taxes. Is that the tax rate in Brazil? Or he got double taxed by America? Or is that because he's in California now or something? If he's in California, dude, I know people who are multi-millionaires, And they literally like would buy a condo in Vegas and live here half the year plus 1 day. Because if they live in California half the year plus 1 day, then they get taxed millions, and then they can essentially get a free condo in Vegas or a free mansion by having a residence here and being here 1 day more than California, if that makes sense. He lives here in the States, that's why. Yeah, taxes are crazy, guys. Taxes are super crazy. If you really get into it, without getting political, guys, but like as a thought experiment, who does the United States owe money to? Because we're allegedly in debt and money's being printed. And the entire planet owes money, the global debt, and there's interest on the global debt that's being paid by the citizens' taxes. But it's like, if the money's just being printed and it's imaginary, and it like, who do we owe the taxes to, guys? It's crazy when you really start to think about it. Like, oh, you owe it to the government, right? But the government's taking out loans and is in debt. But who are they in debt to? Let's hypothetically say it's the Federal Reserve, right? Well, like, why do the taxpayers owe interest to a company that prints money out of nothing? If that's their function, right? Their function is to invent money. We could literally just say there's more money because that's what they're doing. But then we owe percentage. And if you were to hypothetically extrapolate it out, that 50% of your income, which is 50% of your work, goes to them. So half the time you're working for free. And what is free work? Some people would say that that's a form of slavery. I'm not going to get into that, right? That's too far out. But, it is weird that 50% of taxes go to interest payments to loans to our government. Anyway, they should have gotten billion instead of 350 million. What? There's the Phil Davis lawsuit right now. What's Phil suing for? Phil Davis. I remember when he first popped on the scene, his Instagram was like Phil Davis. And then he had like his credentials. And then it was like, ladies, I'm a good look or something like that. I was like, oh shit, okay. He's out here. Phil Davis is letting them know on Instagram. Yeah. So also they asked Dana about UFC Hawaii. And he says that he will not be bringing the UFC to Hawaii any soon, which is odd because Felony and I are going to Hawaii for bare knuckle. So I will get firsthand knowledge of the arenas out there and things like that. Dana says they don't have the infrastructure to support the UFC in Hawaii, unfortunately. He does say, however, he wants to go back to UFC Japan, and hopefully he will get back to Japan soon. I've got a couple friends that are fighting in Risen out there, and man, yeah. If you guys have never seen like the old prides in Japan, they go nuts, like fucking soccer kicking and head stomping and shit. People in Hawaii are real fight fans. They won't have the pro wrestling shit. Oh, you mean like the BMF with Max Holloway, the king of Hawaii? Yeah, so they're going to go to UFC. UFC plans to go to Japan. They don't plan to go to Hawaii. I think Hawaii would be dope. I hope UFC changes their mind and goes to Hawaii. Also, Chael Sonnen has attacked Tom Aspinall over this very subject that we're discussing right now, over the fighter pay issue. And Eddie Hearn looked at Tom Aspinall's contract. He's basically said that it's laughable. It's clown shoes, right? It is silly and ridiculous. And he said that if that is the state of Tom's contract, then Tom shouldn't fight. He said that Tom is making less than like undercard boxers with no names, and that Tom is driving millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of revenue for the UFC, and he should be getting paid. As such, Eddie Hearn also says that typically when Eddie Hearn promotes boxing, 80% goes to the boxers, 20% goes to the promotion. He would like a deal closer to that for Tom Aspinall. And Eddie knows the numbers of the business. Eddie's pushing for that. And Chael, being a company man, says that this is a bad idea. He says it's a bad idea and that Tom should just fight. Like, think about how, like, that's what I love about Chael. How free, I love loyalty. Chael is a loyal motherfucker. He knows who butters his bread. He's like, listen, man, without the UFC, he wouldn't be Chael Sonnen. So he is a company guy. He says Tom shouldn't renegotiate. He says Eddie Hearn should just leave it alone and that they should just fight. And he's implying, I don't think Chael actually believes this. He might. He and I have mutual friends, so I'll get a hold of him and I'll like probably ask him personally. But Chael is saying that either Tom should just fight or Tom should let the UFC know so they can make the Pereira versus Gane fight the UFC World Heavyweight Undisputed title and essentially strip Tom of the belt. So they're talking about stripping, Chael saying that the UFC should potentially strip Tom Aspinal of the belt because now he's got a new manager who wants to renegotiate his contract. That's wild. Nevada and Cali took the money. They should have gotten billions. Phil Davis. People in Japan don't know what the UFC is. Chael's a shill. Tom won't fight for the UFC again. Dang, bro. Because they would have to pay him. Plus Eddie's his manager. Yeah, so you might be right, man. But then they're just going to ice him, right? Yeah, and Felony says everyone says that when they're not fighting anymore. Fuck, yeah. So shit's getting crazy, man, because this MVP promotion with Jake Paul pulled up to Netflix, and now all of a sudden everybody's like, man, Nate Diaz is getting a bag. Zuffa Boxing came out. Conor Benn is getting a bag. Everybody wants to get paid. So I think shit's going to really hit the fucking fan. And in the long run, it's going to be fighters get paid more. In the short term, we're going to see a lot of guys getting put on ice. John Jones, Tom Aspinall. There's probably going to be some like bullshit heavyweight fights coming up. Pereira's a legit, super legit OG, triple OG fighter. But man, him beating Gane, if they give him the undisputed heavyweight title, there's a couple people that would dispute that. John would dispute that. Francis Ngannou would dispute that. Tom Aspinall would dispute that, right? Zuffa Boxing is close to signing. I don't even know who that boxer is. And they're going to give him 20 mil? They're going to give him 20 mil despite the UFC borderline protesting and boycotting the UFC. The fighters in the UFC are like one step away from like all saying they're going to fight their contracts out or be frozen or renegotiate. Shit's getting crazy, man. Jake Paul has put massive pressure on the UFC. And so if this Netflix card pops off the way everybody's anticipating, they're going to do 12 shows in the next year. That's like a direct competition. And they have a bigger platform than Paramount Plus. So they're going to be a bigger media company with a bigger platform. They have bigger stars. Jake Paul's a bigger star than fucking anybody. His brother Logan is going to help him promote it. Logan's a huge star. They got Ronda and Gina, who are international stars. They got Francis, who never lost the belt. They got Nate Diaz, who's a superstar from Conor McGregor fights. You know what I'm saying? Dude, shit's fucking picking up, y'all. Okay, what's the chat saying? 20 million plus. Conor Benn pulled out of his fight. He's known for pulling out, and he's tested positive 5 times. Eddie Hearn is genius by letting him go. Yeah, so that dude tested positive for, I think it was Clomid, right? And Clomid is basically what you would take if you were on steroids and you didn't want too much estrogen. So Clomid will like battle your estrogen when your body produces estrogen to battle the steroid testosterone that you're injecting. Then Conor Benn, and I got a whole video breaking this whole thing down. He said he tested positive for Clomid because he ate eggs. He ate eggs, guys. Guys, if you realize, like I get the fucking orange yolk, fucking pasture raised, eating worms and grass eggs. I get the cage-free pasture raised joints with the orange yolks. I eat 6, 12 eggs in a day sometimes, guys. He said that he tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs because he ate some eggs. Get the fuck out of here, bro. And now you're telling me he tested positive 5 times? I know from my research, I saw that he for sure tested positive for Clomid twice. And it was like 5 to 6 weeks apart, which means it wasn't just some accidental egg thing, allegedly. But they somehow got off on it. Eddie Hearn stuck by him with it. And I heard Eddie Hearn was actually hurt that Conor Benn bounced. So you're saying he's a genius for letting him go, which may be true too, you know, and then Eddie Hearn is publicly saying, oh man, I'm really upset about this. But in reality, he's like kind of relieved, because if what you're saying is true and Conor Benn is a pullout artist, man, that is not a good look, especially when he's causing all this controversy over the $15 million payday, guys. People are saying Dana paid the wrong Conor. They should have paid Conor the bag and got Conor back in sooner, got Conor on the White House card. But I'm excited, man. The rumors I'm hearing are it's Conor McGregor versus Ian Gary. If Conor can fucking, I was going to say if he could clap Ian Gary's cheeks, but that hits too close to home for a guy like Ian, right? So if Conor can KO Ian Gary, Conor's going to fight for the belt, y'all. He's going to fight for the 170-pound belt if he beats Ian Gary. Can you imagine? The triple champ does what the fuck he wants. Conor McGregor making a comeback. Ian is fighting Islam in July for the title. Care to put some money on that? Is that announced? Is that announced? Is that official? Conor versus George Masvidal co-main. Oh shit. Okay, so maybe they're building the Conor versus Ian fight. But yeah, man, that's fucking crazy. If Conor beats Masvidal and Islam wins, and Conor's like, I'm gonna bounce that fucking whatever off the mat, blah, 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 blah. Dang, we got the Dagestani versus Ireland beef again. Conor versus Khabib's camp. This is crazy. This is crazy. I still think it's gonna be Conor versus Ian Machado. You're saying Conor McGregor won't fight or Conor Benn won't fight? He's not fighting. Who's not? Which one? Conor Benn or Conor McGregor? How accurate are you in your predictions typically? Because you sound like you have a high level of certainty, and it sounds like you do research on some things, but how would you know if Conor's not going to fight? I've heard he's very serious. I heard they're in serious negotiations. And I heard that the fight is going to be done in the near future. So we shall see. We shall see Conor McGregor versus Ian Machado Gary, or like you're saying, George Masvidal. People are saying that George Masvidal is just capping, that he is trying to get people to talk about him by saying that he's got a big announcement and a big fight, and that's why he's not on MVP. And people are saying that he's just kind of promoting himself. Conor McGregor weighs 210. Bro, he's going to fight at 170. 210 is not out of the realm of possibility. I have friends that are 200 pounds that fight at 170. I think he's off the coke, bro. He seems to be a religious man now. He seems to be very religious from what I've seen, and I'm happy for him. So, yeah, man. What do you guys know about Clavicular? Clavicular got released from jail, guys. He got arrested in Florida on assault charges. They're saying that he essentially instigated a fight between his girlfriend, Violet, and a 19-year-old girl inside the Airbnb that they were at, and then they arrested him for that. Clavicular says it's because they feel that he has too much influence on the youth and that he's now being threatened and watched and arrested by the powers that be, which is similar to what Andrew Tate says. Andrew Tate retweeted him and says, I know exactly what Clav is going through. I know the phone calls he's getting. I know the threats he's getting. I know the governments that are watching him. I know how they're moving. I know why they're arresting him. They're putting pressure on Clavicular because they're saying that the powers that be won't let you get famous unless you're essentially working for them and like towing the party line. and you are promoting the agendas they want to promote, because they don't want anybody having too much influence on the young male audience that is not completely in alignment with the program that is being pushed, if that makes any sense. So Clavicular is saying that's why he got arrested, which sounds kind of wild because he got arrested over two chicks fighting in an Airbnb, right? And you think that the people that run the government set him up with that? Or do you think that he was just on stream promoting crime, which is fighting, like non-sanctioned fighting, and because he's live streaming it, somebody called the cops? Like, is that the more believable scenario? Or is it that there's a government conspiracy above the government to go silence Clavicular, to tell people to stop using peptides and looks maxing? It's like kind of wild, right? Clavicular does a lot of crazy stuff on stream. So Clavicular ran someone over with a Cybertruck. Clavicular claims that he does meth for weight loss. Clavicular injects peptides. He's on steroids. Clavicular does what's called bone smashing, allegedly, which is hitting yourself in the face with a hammer to make your bone structure. People say that doesn't work and it doesn't actually make your bone structure better. But, other people say that some things like, thumb pulling or mewing do work for looks maxing. I feel like, man, if you just get a little lean, get a lineup, have some personality, some charisma, set some boundaries, have some goals, you'll be all right. You'll be all right, guys. So, maybe date women who are more traditional in their value structure rather than more modern in their value structure, and you'll be all right. So yeah, man, it's been a big news day today. Alexa Grasso, man, did you guys see her body that chick? She bodied Macy Barber. Man, I was like, as fun as it is to watch that, you got to be a little concerned for Macy Barber, man. She looked like, I was hoping that she was going to live. Like, I was concerned for her life. That's how bad she got KO'd and choked. That was brutal, man. Brutal. And you usually don't see that in a female fight. Oh, Felony says, Felony Charles Bennett dating coach to the stars. They don't want a male influencer like Felony to have so much power over the youth. And he's telling you guys dating younger is better. I'm going to put a caveat, 18 and over, 18 to like 20 is probably the range a lot of you guys should shoot for, because you guys are probably, 29 or 25-ish, right? RAF was awesome. I saw Dylan Dennis versus Kobe Covington highlights, and I saw the Armin where he won, where Armin won as well. So yeah, RAF is super fun. RAF needs to post better on their Instagram, because they'll just go like, chaos in the building, but they don't explain. Like, if you don't know who Kobe Chaos Covington or Chaos Kobe Covington is, if you don't know, then you don't know what that Instagram post means. You just see him grappling Dylan Dennis, and you're just like, but you don't even know it's him. Like, imagine you didn't know him and you didn't know Dylan Dennis, and that came on your feed, right? You would go, what is this? Oh, this is two dudes, right? What is this, high school? You wouldn't know. So they need a little more context in their Instagram posts. I've done multi-millions of dollars for business owners by doing their social media and their marketing for them. So I'm not saying this just like some hypothetical. I'm just saying that if RAF wants to build a fan base, because the wrestling community is already going to watch them, but they need to get eyeballs from people who don't follow the sport, right? They need the casuals, essentially. The casuals don't know what that post means. Chaos in the building, right? The casual doesn't know that that's Kobe's nickname. They don't know Kobe is in the video and that he's relevant because he's a UFC star. So maybe they go, UFC star Kobe Covington beats internet celebrity Dylan Dennis. And then explain maybe briefly the points because he turned him or what. You get what I'm saying? So anyways, that's my rant about RAF. But yeah, RAF is super fun. I'm happy for them. My uncle, before he passed away, was Hulk Hogan. and he was one of the founding creators of RAF. He also is behind Real American Beer, which Kobe Covington is now working with. So fun fact, a little family correlation to Kobe Covington and to RAF. Eric Bischoff, who was my uncle's dear friend and was part of the WCW when WCW beat WWE for, a couple months straight, or however long that was, like over a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Eric Bischoff is part of RAF, and so a lot of the stuff that's happening that's cool about RAF is through Eric Bischoff, and I know my uncle was super excited about it before he passed away, so RIP to the Hulkster, and I'm glad to see the RAF living on. And if you're going to drink beer, drink Real American Beer, guys. Come on, you know what I'm saying? RAF is awesome. How do we get to be more specific? Yeah. Kobe didn't look good. Johnny Eblin. Dude, Brian Battle's so good too. Brian Battle is so good. Like I know people who are in the UFC and people who, Brian was training out here for a while. I don't think that he likes living in Vegas. So I don't think he lives here anymore. But man, he was beating the shit out of people. Like good dudes. And people were like, bro, Brian Battle is the truth. So Eblin to beat him, that's impressive. I mean, Eblin's a fucking maniac animal himself. So, fuck, that's a crazy-ass fight. I might go watch that right now. RAF account and Fox Nation both post separately. That's the problem. Oh, okay. So, does Fox Nation post better captions on their videos? I'm like a social media, like nerd in a way, right? I like to know what people are doing on social media and what's, like, working and what's not. So, you learned a lot of Eric. Johnny took Brian down 10 times. Choked him. Fuck. Yeah, Johnny's also really good too. I know he comes to Vegas a lot and he spars Sean Strickland and they go to fucking war. He might be coming out after this fight. If it sounds like he didn't take much damage, he might be coming to Vegas to help Strickland prepare for Hamzat. All right, I'm going to check the Fox Nation post since they post better. Because, I'll be real, man. I don't follow wrestling like that. So sometimes they're like, oh, Dake wins. And I'm like, they're talking about Kyle Dake and who did he go against and what's the other guy's credentials? And Kyle Dake is a 4-time national champion, or is he a 4-time All-American? Like, I don't know the details either. I have like an ancillary understanding of wrestling because I do MMA, speaking of which, shout out to Ignite Fights. That's their 165-pound belt right there. I fight, I don't typically fight at 165, but when they say come out and fight for a belt, and you're like, you know what, man, I need some gold to add to the collection, I just fly out to Ignite Fights, beat up the local dude who had sold like thousands and thousands of tickets, get booed out of the arena to the point that they got to put security on me, and I bounce with the belt. So if you're wondering why the shirt matches the belt, that's why. Fox Nation posts better. Johnny took no damage. Oh, Kyle Snyder won. Okay, see, and then that's what I'm saying. I'm not super informed in wrestling. 10 Olympic gold medal. Oh, wait, 1 Olympic gold medal, 1 silver medal in the Olympics. Wrestling is my sport. Oh, shit, okay. Let's go best of 3 takedowns, bro. Come to Vegas. I'm just playing. I get taken down in every one of my fights, and I submit dudes. And then Felony's on my ass because we watched some of my fights. And he's like, bro, why do you keep standing up on these dudes when you can submit them? And I'm like, because I ain't no bitch. I'm trying to KO these guys. I don't have any knockouts on my record. I keep getting taken down. And I keep fighting up and I wrestle up. And then I strike again and they just shoot on me again. And then eventually it just gets to the point where it's like, all right, it's too easy to submit this guy. I'll just choke him out now. For the most part, I've got 9 professional MMA wins and 9 submissions, so that's what, Anyways, guys, so that's kind of the state of affairs in martial arts right now. Make sure you send your coach to studiomillions.com. Check out Fight Circus, home of the Freak Show fights, man. They have some crazy content. Go look at their Instagram. It's crazy as fuck, man. You can go see, if you guys like Felony Charles Bennett, you can go see Felony on there fighting, man. He fought death sentence. He fought 2-on-1. You guys want to see me dressed up as a lovable pimp with blonde wig? I'm fighting a midget. Okay, guys? That's how Fight Circus does it. Maybe I was in a t-shirt with another man and we had one boxing glove on each hand and he's drinking beer and the other guys are drinking beer and I don't drink, but it's beer boxing. And maybe we went 2-on-2 fights versus Oscar Willis and Ben Davis. Maybe that's what we did. Maybe it was me and Mark the Shark Irwin, who's a bare knuckle world champion, and we scrapped 2 internet celebrity MMA influencers. You know what I'm saying? From like Oscar Willis from the Mac Life. You can go see that on Fight Circus. That happened. I'm in a blonde wig and a leather jacket, running around like a freaking crazy person out there. In a shirt with another man. You know what I'm saying? Pause. Pause. Big pause. Double pause. Right? But it was beer boxing. Maybe I interfered in the match. Maybe I got called in the ring. Maybe they made us wear a shirt together and then we had to go fight 2 dudes. Me and my boy had to go fight 2 other dudes, you know, in a 2-on-2 boxing match. You can watch that on the Fight Circus Instagram, right? But like, what else is going on the internet? Go check out Fight Circus, man. Anyways, guys, I cranked this out earlier than last night, so I'm excited because usually I don't get started till now. I'm going to start pushing it earlier and earlier. And big show tomorrow. I just had an idea tonight. I'm going to walk in the living room. I'm going to talk to Felony Charles Bennett. And I'm going to say, Felony, I think tomorrow is the day. I think tomorrow is the day we do the live titled Politics with Felony Charles Bennett. I'm going to see if I can get him to do it, guys. I'm going to see if I can get Felony to do a political podcast with me tomorrow because Felony's got some hot takes. We're going to collab on a live. And yeah, man, make sure you tap subscribe and hit notify because you see I interact with the chat. I'd rather have a conversation rather than me just rant, right? So anyways, for those of you that already subscribed, I appreciate you. I love you guys. You guys are my real ones. And if you're watching this and lurking, listen, man, you could choose to be a buster. You could choose to be a real one. The choice is up to you. You know what to do. Hit the subscribe and tap notifications. Love you guys. Peace. Oh, what's up? What's up? John Hogan got here right at the end. John Hogan. Shout out to John Hogan. My guy. Peace, guys.